Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Good. Wonderful to see some alums here. MFA program representing. And of course, everyone else as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, we love all of you. And we appreciate you for joining us for a celebration of literature and living writers. My name is Megan Marshall. I'm the director of the QC Hyde Living Writers series, and this is the first kickoff event of our fall semester. And I'm so happy that it features a member of our SDSU family, one who is endearingly referred to more often by his initials than his actual name, SPM, which I think is pretty authorly and cool. But before I introduce him officially, I do want to thank those who have helped to make this series and this event possible, and that includes all of our friends at Love Library, my amazing co-host, Markle Tumlin, who is holding it down there in the back. How about a round of applause for Markle? And I also want to thank our other friends from Love Library, Luca Hall, Laurel Bliss, and Rebecca Williamson. And I want to issue a thanks to the Department of English and Comparative Literature for their continued support of the program, as well as our representatives from Aztec Shops, including Cal Ramirez, and our friends who are selling books over there in the back. There are books for sale, just FYI, if you want to get one, get it signed. And lastly, I'm humbled to acknowledge this space that we are privileged to share this evening. For millennia, the Kumeyaay people have been a part of this land. The land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations. And as members of the SDSU community, we acknowledge and celebrate this legacy. So just a few reminders. If you have yet to do so, please silence your cell phone. And this event is being recorded, but don't worry, all we see is this here, all right? But if you do want to watch it at any point, along with some other amazing content, check out the QC Hyde Living Writers series on YouTube, right? Shameless plug. All right, without further ado. Firstly, can you hear me okay in the back? All right, pretty good. Yeah, this, again, first event of the semester, we're gonna test out the equipment, y'all. It's working, it's good. Author, editor, and co-director of SDSU's MFA program in creative writing, Stephen Paul Martin, has published over 20 books of fiction, poetry, and nonfiction. One of his short story collections, The Gothic Twilight, was nominated for the National Book Critics Circle Fiction Award in 1993. His most recent collections of fiction are 2020, from which he'll be sharing from tonight, which was just released this year, The Ace of Lightning, which came out in 2017, and Changing the Subject, which came out in 2010. From 1980 to 1996, he co-edited Central Park, an internationally acclaimed journal of the arts and social commentary. Of SPM's latest collection of short stories, author Johnny Payne raves, Stephen Paul Martin's 2020 reminds us that in his finest moments, he's the king of writing degree 0, the American Albert Camus, if Camus had a sense of humor. I believe this is an apt description of not only this collection, but SPM's aesthetic overall. When Camus was awarded the Nobel Prize, he was honored for illuminating the problems of the human conscience in our time. 2020 does just this. It illuminates many significant issues that plague the conscience of our time. Corrupt politicians, misinformation, inequity, climate change. But in true Martin style, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It aims not to preach thought, but to provoke it. Like in the story Photo Op, the president declares himself the nation's greatest master of impersonation, while his director of social media feeds him double-stuffed golden Oreos and frets around looking like a constipated bear. Or in The Right Thing, where Rip Van Winkle and friends work to destroy doomsday bunkers to prevent rich people from escaping the devastation their greed has created. And in the title story, a couple opts to share their new house with a literal wolf because, well, the house has the best ocean view, and because, of course, wolves make better roommates than human beings. As Martin leans deftly into absurdity, satire, and dark humor, we can't help but chuckle along at society's shared ridiculousness. So we are grateful to have him here tonight so we can all revel together in this ridiculousness. So please join me in welcoming Stephen Paul Martin.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to see you all here. I want to say with the books, this is a little plug. The previous collections are all half price. So feel free to go back there. If money's an issue, feel free to pick up the previous books instead of the most recent ones. I think the most recent one's the best, but don't let that stop you. Whatever works. First of all, I want to say Living Writer Series is an amazing process. You get to listen to living writers and you get to study their work in the classroom. And this arrangement is the creation of Megan Marshall. Without her, this wouldn't be happening. So let's have a round of applause. I always, when I'm recruiting students for our program, I always tell them about Megan's course and the way the reading series is attached to it. So I'm really proud to be here as part of that process. Okay, so 2020, it's a book of stories which are all in some ways based on what I call contemporary history. In other words, history recent enough so that we remember it vividly and probably shared in it. The stories are in some cases based on specific events that took place in 2020. In other cases, they are more based on the general zeitgeist of 2020 and the overall mood that we faced as a nation back then with the troubles we were going through. The story I'm going to read tonight is the first story in the collection called Movie. And this is in that category. It doesn't specifically refer to any one thing that happened in 2020, but it does refer to the general mood that existed at the time. So, Movie. I met Colette in a microbiology seminar, then later in a phenomenology class. She was brilliant both times, even brighter than the professors, and intelligence like hers really gets me turned on. Since then, we've had great conversations in coffee shops, and I get the feeling she thinks I'm a pretty smart guy. Now I want Colette to have sex with me, and I'm not sure how to move forward. I don't want to be too assertive and ruin the friendship we already have, but I'm also thinking she might be expecting me to make the first move. When we talk, it's so exciting and I want to rip my clothes off and get down to business. I'm pretty sure she does too. But what if I'm wrong? What if she gets offended? I decided to play it safe and ask if she wants to go to a movie where I'm hoping we can start touching each other by sharing a bucket of popcorn. She looks eager to go, says yes without hesitation. Fortunately, a great movie's opening this week. Everyone wants to see it. It's understood that we won't get a seat if we're not there well in advance. We get there 5 hours before showtime. The line is already 10 blocks long. But since I'm with Colette, I'm not upset that we'll have to wait. We'll have a long wait. Besides, the city lights up and down the block are beautiful. There's a cool breeze. Large white clouds are moving in the night sky over the buildings. I'd say, I'm glad we're here, even though I don't like crowds. Colette nods. I don't either. In fact, I wouldn't be here except I wanted to be with you. Going to a movie sounds like fun, but you're always forced to wait in line like you're being punished for wanting to be entertained. You stand there like a moron wasting your time because they say you're going to have an incredible experience. They highlight all the big name stars. They spew all the lame superlatives. But when you finally get in and the movie starts, it's the same dumb thing you've seen 100 times before. Annoying soundtrack music, formulaic plot, theatrical acting. I nod and smile. But this time I'm pretty sure things will be different. So different that we'll need a better word than different. It's a good sign that no one seems to know what it's about. There's no way to know what it's about. Reviewers weren't allowed to see the movie in advance. No one even knows who the filmmaker was. But I've heard that at least one reviewer wrote about the film anyway. He reviewed the absence of reviews. Yeah, he was really dismissive and hostile. He said the film's director told critics to fuck off in no uncertain terms. So of course that got people interested, even though the critic urged people to stay away and called the whole thing a cheap publicity stunt. Cheap or not, it worked. Look at all the people here. And they all had no idea what the film is about. It could be anything. Colette hesitates, then says, I hope I don't sound like a snob, but if you're like me, you don't care what a film is about. I nod. What it's about isn't really what it's about. So now we're about to need a better word than about? Like what? She smiles and shrugs and puts her hand on my wrist and says, I wouldn't know where to begin. I smile and shrug and say, let's begin right here. I pull Colette close to me and kiss her fiercely. She returns the kiss with equal intensity, goes on for 20 minutes. Our teeth click and our tongues are dancing and wrestling. People in line start clapping and cheering and whistling. We pause and smile at all our new fans, waving like we're the stars of the show. Then we're kissing insanely again. She pushes me into the storefront behind me, a place that sells used books and vinyl records. For a second, it's like she's about to push me right through the shopfront window, and I'm thinking how cool it would be to be kissing and falling back through shattering glass, tumbling into the store with Colette on top of me, with all the people inside looking shocked and amused. Wow, you really know how to kiss. You're so fucking good with your tongue. She puts her mouth to my ear and says, I want you to lick my nipples. I laugh. Well, you know, I think we better wait till we're inside and it's dark and no one can see. Yeah, if you will lick my nipples up, hey, we might get in trouble. I wonder what the penalty is. Colette shrugs. I'm not sure, but they'd probably put us in a car and take us somewhere and interrogate us, and we'd lose our place in line. Would they use handcuffs? Only if we fought back and told them to fuck off. Maybe if we're nice and polite, they pulled out the cuffs, they'd let us keep them and we could use them on each other. That would be awesome. I'm so glad you're into stuff like that. Absolutely. I mean, you can buy handcuffs in those kinky sex equipment stores or order them online. But if we got cuffs from the cops, we'd be using things that have probably been used on actual killers. Colette starts laughing. Would the pleasure be more authentic? I nod, much more authentic, whatever that means. The line for the movie keeps growing. People are checking their smartphones and saying it's the longest line in movie history. I feel honored to be part of an unprecedented event. A cab pulls up and 4 people tumble out of the back seat. One of them asks, hey, where's the end of the line? Someone says, dude, it's got to be 30 blocks away by now and it keeps getting longer. Whoa, that's incredible. We can't even take a cab because it's a one-way street. I guess we better start walking. Someone says, look, man, I'd run if I were you. It's pretty far. There's a pause that doesn't seem friendly. One of them asks a question that sounds like a challenge or even a threat. Does anyone mind if we cut in line? There's sudden silence. The playful mood in the line disappears. Suddenly we're all looking at each other, not sure what to do. Finally, Colette says, look, I'd like to say yes, but wouldn't be right. People who got here first a long time ago would feel cheated. I say, exactly. I think you need to hustle back to the end of the line and wait your turn. But look, we might not get to see the film. We left early just like the rest of you, but the traffic was horrible. You guys are just lucky. You were close enough that you didn't need to take a cab like we did. There's another tense pause, the kind where fake smiles drop and laughter is dangerous. Colette steps forward and says, come back tomorrow night, go home, get some booze, camping gear, come back, pitch a tent, get drunk and spend the night in front of the ticket booth so you'll be first in line tomorrow. You'll get the best seats in the house. The people from the cab look stunned. They look at each other, clear their throats and stuff their hands in their pockets. Colette says, think about it. If you wait till tomorrow, you can read the reviews and find out if it's your kind of movie. Maybe it's not. There haven't been any advance reviews, so how would you know? Maybe it sucks, and if so, you'll be glad that you didn't waste your money, right? The people from the cab are nodding. One of them, a guy in a white bow tie and bowler hat, turns to me and points to Colette and says, "Is this your girlfriend?" "Yeah." "You're a lucky guy. She's brilliant." "I know, and she really turns me on." He looks at Colette and says, "Thanks for the suggestion. Things were just about to get nasty, but you really turned things around. You should run for president when you're old enough." He frowns and says, "I hate politics. I think it's all bullshit. I think the president's a joke, and not just a joke, but a really bad joke, the kind that no one laughs at." People from the cab all nod and laugh. The bow tie guy tips his bowler hat and bows. They all get back in the cab, which quickly disappears into the traffic. Colette looks at me with bedroom eyes and says, "I'm so glad you think I'm your girlfriend." I say, "You're fantastic. The way you turned that situation around really blew me away." The rest of the line is cheering. Colette is their hero. A guy beside me says, "You know what, buddy? I'd keep this woman around. Don't let her get away. She looks like the mother of your children." The women beside the guy are nodding eagerly. One of them says, "I hope you don't mind, but I've been catching fragments of your conversation. You're both so smart. Your children would be brilliant." Colette smiles, but I can tell she feels weird. Once the people around us return to their conversations, she and I give each other a look that says we're not quite ready for kids. She says, "Actually, I'm not sure if I'll ever be ready for kids." Me neither. Sounds too difficult, way too difficult, not to mention expensive. And for me, because I'm a woman and I'm almost 30, it's hard to admit that I'm not desperate to have kids, but I'm actually not. I like my life the way it is. Yeah, women get a raw deal. They're brainwashed all their lives into thinking they have to make babies and it's going to be the greatest thing in the world. Then they have kids and they find out that motherhood is a pain in the ass. Suddenly, I'm aware of a distant sound. I don't know what it is at first, but I'm pretty sure that it's drumming of some kind and maybe chanting. Then it's clear that it's kettle drums, a surging rhythmic pulse, people chanting in unison, 1, 1, 1, 1, or maybe it's hum, 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 or maybe it's yum, 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 or some, or none, 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 or fun, 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 or all of them at once. It sounds like a million footsteps approaching, feet on the pavement marching in time to the drumming and chanting. I look at Colette. "Do you hear that?" "Yeah." At first I thought it was in my head, but what the fuck is it? I don't know, but it's getting closer. Over the next 30 minutes, it keeps getting closer and louder. Everyone looks puzzled, asking each other what's happening. The line keeps getting longer. The news reports from our phones say the line is now backed up to the Lincoln Tunnel, blocking traffic, and backed up all the way to the George Washington Bridge, blocking traffic. Streets have been closed all over the city. There's talk of the mayor declaring a state of emergency. The street is shaking. At the corners, I see gladiators, dressed like people in Technicolor movies about ancient Rome, coming up the street, pounding drums and chanting fiercely. At first, I think it might be a reenactment of some kind, but such a thing wouldn't make sense in Midtown Manhattan, which doesn't look anything like ancient Rome and wouldn't work as a realistic setting. Hundreds of Roman soldiers are moving toward us now. The drumming and chanting are deafening, shaking the street. I'm afraid that the shopfront windows are going to start shattering. And behind the soldiers, a huge head appears, a woman's long black hair, her face and neck and shoulders, all gigantic, like her full body might be the size of an ocean liner. She's on her back, naked and chained to a giant pallet on wooden wheels, gagged and struggling fiercely. When the procession gets close, she gathers her strength, every huge muscle straining. She finally rips free, tears off her gag, stands ferociously, glaring around in disgust. The soldiers start shouting and running in all directions. Her voice is huge. "You little fuck brains, now you'll pay for what you've done." She bends and smashes groups of them into mush with her giant fists. They're screaming, the sound of bones crunching. Someone in line shouts up at her, "Why are you doing this?" She leans down and spits in his face, knocking him back through a shopfront window. Her voice booms. "Really? You can't figure out what I'm doing, why I'm doing this? Get smarter." She stomps down the avenue, laughing loudly, squashing cars and kicking in shop fronts. Soon she's out of sight. The streets are covered with dead Roman soldiers. Everyone's in shock. It occurs to me that they can't really be Roman soldiers, so I wonder what they are. Out of work Hollywood extras? But where do they find this gigantic woman? How do they manage to get her tied up? I can only assume they secretly sedated her, but the drugs wore off too soon. Colette says, she was really pissed off. No shit. I mean, I don't blame her. If someone tied me up like that, I'd be pissed off too. Even if it was me. Well, actually, I wouldn't mind at all if it was you. I wouldn't either. You can tie me up and have a date any old time. That's like that song, which had a phone number for a title. Finally, the crowd begins to move. The line moves forward 10 feet, stops, moves forward 10 feet, stops, moves 10 more feet, stops for more than an hour. Then moves forward 5 feet, stops, moves forward 5 more feet, stops, moves 5 feet more, stops for more than an hour. Then moves forward 3 feet, stops, moves forward 3 feet, stops, moves 3 feet more, stops for more than an hour. Colette and I hardly notice how long it's taking. We're talking eagerly about the weird apartments we've lived in, our most embarrassing moments, manatees in the Sargasso Sea, the nasty profits made by detaining immigrants at the border, the best dive bars in Brooklyn, our fear of becoming just one more couple that fights all the time about stupid things, the CIA's involvement in the assassination of JFK, the varieties of identity theft, the crazy jobs we've had, our shared contempt for customer service bots with human names, the president's pathological self-absorption, the weirdest micronations, our keen dislike for birthday parties and weddings, the Birdman of Alcatraz, the Birdman in the Lascaux cave with his prehistoric erection, the tourist garbage in the Himalayas, the best unknown progressive rock albums, the seals of the Caspian Sea going blind on the southern coast of Russia, the endless replication of smiles and photo opportunities, Scriabin's plan to control the planets with music, the growing number of unaffordable cities, the Arctic rock formation that looks like the largest pair of pants in the world, the subjects we don't like talking about, but we're also using our mouths in other ways, sharing the longest kisses in the history of passion. Someone checks the news on the phone, then loudly announces, that huge pissed off woman, she's heading for Washington. I pull out my phone and check my news feed. It says that he was just seen outside Baltimore heading south. I tell Colette, I'm amazed how fast she's moving. From here to Baltimore in just 3 hours on foot. She sounds highly motivated. I'm figuring that in maybe 30 minutes, we'll get footage of her tearing down the Washington Monument, crushing the Lincoln Memorial, or maybe she's got the White House in mind. Colette says, she's probably going after the president. I'm glad that someone's finally got the balls to squash that motherfucker. If they know she's on her way, they'll be prepared. They'll probably nuke her. They won't have much choice. She's clearly not in the mood for negotiation. Finally, we can see the marquee, which says nothing except the word movie. Then we're facing a robot in the ticket booth, a square metallic head and torso, opening its mouth to take our money, spinning 360 degrees and spitting out our tickets, eyes lighting up and spinning in their sockets, using a porn star voice to remind us to turn our cell phones off and behave ourselves. The lobby is a blur of tightly packed bodies. No popcorn smell, no soda machine, no glass concession counter with overpriced candy. Then we're in what looks like the semi-dark of a massive place, vaguely resembling old pictures I've seen of opera houses in 19th century Paris. It seems to get larger and larger the more and more people are squashed inside. The seats are quickly filled on the ground floor, second floor, the galleries, and the balconies. The aisles fill up, then we're crushed together, sitting on top of each other. No matter how large the theater seems to be getting, it's not large enough to accommodate the masses of people surging in. Finally, the doors are closed. We're stuffed like cattle in sardine cans or sardines in cattle cars. The lights go out, but for the next hour, the screen remains blank. People start to panic, try to get out, but the doors are locked. Big guys form groups and try to smash their way out the doors, but the doors won't budge. People try their phones to call for help. but there's no reception. Finally, images form on the screen. No trailers, no opening credits, no title or soundtrack music. Colette looks at me bewildered. Do you remember what this movie is called? I say, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have a title. That's one of the things that made it so different than different. It's a movie about a huge line of people waiting for a movie. The pace is extremely slow, exquisitely so. The camera pauses in front of each person or couple or group, providing detailed shots of each one from a number of distances and angles with ongoing changes in lighting and texture. Some scenes are in color, others in black and white. Others are made of several scenes from other parts of the movie and parts of scenes from other movies, juxtaposed and superimposed, running at different speeds, forward and backward. Soundtrack segments pop in and out, some of them specially composed for the movie we're watching, others taken from other movies, cut up and recombined. All dialogue segments last a long time, at least 20 minutes for each interaction. Nothing sounds scripted. Either the actors have mastered the art of sounding unscripted, or there's no script, and the actors aren't really actors, just regular people. They don't have the screen personality look. They're not wearing any makeup. Some of the conversations build to fierce levels of emotional intensity. Other conversations drift, going nowhere and taking a long time doing it, never going beyond small talk, or smaller talk, or even smaller talk. Other conversations are loaded with body language, some of it threatening, some of it playful, some of it crude or obscenely polite. Other conversations have no body language at all, the people never moving even slightly. Other conversations seem to have come from another language, with English dubbed in awkwardly, absurdly out of sync. Other conversations condemn the president. Other conversations avoid politics and the weather. Other conversations develop as if the world came to a ludicrous end a few days, months, or years ago without anyone knowing it. Other conversations make the end of the world sound like parlor talk or pillow talk. Other conversations go back and forth like ping pong. Other conversations rage like a mastodon trapped in a tar pit. Other conversations turn philosophy into philately, into philology, into phylogeny. Other conversations are microscopic or telescopic, making a difference between them seem unimportant. Other conversations move like trains making dangerous turns on snowy mountains or surfers cutting back and forth on mountainous waves. Other conversations contain all other conversations. Other conversations acknowledge that something is always missing. Other conversations conclude that nothing is ever missing. Other conversations are interrupted by people cutting in line or failing to cut in line and feeling like shit for even trying. Other conversations focus on shirts. Other conversations focus on weapons. Other conversations focus on sex or make it seem that no one has ever said sex or even thought about sex. Other conversations are like jokes that keep getting better, funny in ways that weren't apparent at first, spreading through a series of neurochemical transformations until nothing can ever be serious again, and no one can even remember how to keep a straight face in public. Other conversations are like spilled beer. Other conversations are like broken Pez dispensers. Other conversations turn mammals into plants or plant microphones into flowers. Other conversations make botany sound like astronomy, or Austria sound like Australia, or make it sound like germs all come from Germany, all perfume from Peru, all fire from Tierra del Fuego. Other conversations can't get started. Other conversations echo other conversations. Other conversations make no difference, while seeming to make all the difference in the world, making it clear that words like difference need to be more than different. Then silence, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then it's all conversation again. Then silence, then a stormy background scene, a gigantic woman smashing the White House, lifting the president into the flashing sky, taking obvious pleasure in watching the president squirm and beg, then biting his head off, spitting it out, wiping her mouth on the back of her hand, laughing savagely, stomping into a thundering distance, then silence, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then it's all conversation again. Camera work so carefully designed that each moment is worth years of close observation. I'm packed so close to Colette that I'm feeling orgasmic pleasure in every cell of my body. I say, are you feeling orgasmic pleasure in every cell of your body? She says, yeah, I'm feeling orgasmic pleasure in every cell of my body. It's fun to watch a movie this way. It makes everything on the screen seem much more exciting. I say, my dick feels hard enough to fuck the Grand Canyon. She says, my cunt feels wet enough to flood the Grand Canyon. The line in the movie keeps getting longer, caught between parallel lines and receding streetlights. The buildings around them are dark and distorted by moonlight. Half of them are empty, the other half might as well be. The longer the film goes on, the more the conversations keep changing. With so much time set aside for each dialogue segment, everyone here will die of old age before the movie's over. Thank you very much.